So if you guys already know from watching my introductory video, I've been living in Australia for over 5 years and I'm an international student from Vietnam. Between Vietnam and Australia, there are a lot of cultural differences that made it difficult to adapt when I first arrived in Sydney back in 2016. Over the years of living in Sydney and seeing things in a new light, I decided to find the positives and the negatives on my change of view as an international student. The first positive point that I want to get out of the way right off the bat is obviously the public transportation here in Sydney.
So in Australia, we have a lot of public transportation like these. So we have the bus, the train, and we also have something called the ferry, which will take you from one island to the next pretty much, or one side of the beach to the next side of the beach. Most noticeably, it is between the Circular Quay Wharf all the way to the Manly Wharf. The public transportation over here is really convenient because you don't have to worry about getting a car or a bike or a motorbike, because a lot of these train stations will take you to the more popular places, so like Burwood or Strathfield. So you don't really need to get a car over here at all, so that saves you a lot of the cost as an international student over here. Train stations like these are located all across Sydney, Australia, as well as other states like Melbourne, Victoria, or also in Brisbane, Queensland. To go from one place to another here in Sydney, Australia, you don't really need a car or any form of personal transportation at all. A car is more like a luxury over here, and you can just use these types of public transportations like the train and the buses to get from one place to another. And with an adult card, there is 3 different cards. The 2 main ones is the adult card and the child card. The child card is half the price of the adult card. And for the adult card, normally during the normal days, it is about $4 that will take you from one place to another. And so the child card will be around $2. During the weekends, the price of the adult card will be reduced to half price. So it will be about $2 for the adult card as well on a Sunday. So having some form of public transportation like these is really convenient because I don't have to worry about getting a car or a motorbike to go from one place to another. And that is probably one of the most positive things I find about Sydney, Australia, or anywhere in Australia in particular, because of these public transportations like these. Another good thing about living in Sydney, Australia is that they have outdoor parks like these. So this is one of the places that I go to work out a lot because it is nearby my place, and there's a lot of nature around. And there's not a lot of people either, so I can just have the park all by myself a lot of the times. You have the monkey bars, you have the pull-up bars, you pretty much have everything you need to have a good physical workout. And because I do calisthenics a lot, I don't really need gym equipment at all. All I need is my body weight to actually get a pretty good workout throughout the day. I know that in Vietnam and anywhere in particular, they have outdoor parks like these. But back when I was still living in Vietnam and I haven't traveled outside of Vietnam yet, Vietnam still doesn't have these public outdoor parks like these. And so, not to say that Vietnam doesn't have any public outdoor parks like this, they do. But back when I was still young and I was still in Vietnam back then, these things weren't a thing. And so now going to the gym seems more of a luxury more than anything, because you have parks like these that can help you do your workout without actually using weights at the gym. Calisthenics parks has become more of a regular thing, and you see it more every day. So if you want to have a good workout but you don't want to spend money on the gym, these parks in Sydney, Australia is definitely for you. One thing that I like about Australia is the community diversity. And because there are a lot of diversity here in Australia, people from different backgrounds, people from different communities, such as Vietnamese people who live in Cabramatta and Canley Vale, or you have Koreans who live in Strathfield and Burwood, and then you also have a lot of other diversities and cultures who live all around Sydney, Australia. And so it became a big part of me while I was living in Australia, is that I get to meet so many people with different backgrounds and diversities that it has become more enjoyable talking to people. Especially when I was living in Vietnam, where the majority of the population is Vietnamese and you don't get to meet a lot of people with different backgrounds and cultures, then it is really difficult to communicate with other people from outside of your own culture. But living in Australia has allowed me to do that pretty much, and because I get to meet so many friends and so many people from different backgrounds and cultures, that I was able to grow up to who I am today and become, I guess, more sociable in a sense. And I really like the friendly atmosphere that people give when you have a chance to meet them the first time. And because people have become so accepting of different cultures and backgrounds, it just feels really nice to become welcoming and to be welcomed as well. And for yourself to be integrated into such a culturally diverse society. And yeah, it just became a big part of me growing up over here in Australia for the past 6 years. It has also become a lot easier to speak English while you're living here in Sydney, Australia, because when you say that you speak English in another country, let's say Vietnam for example, you actually aren't learning English properly at all. Because the level of English standards in other countries or other parts of the world where English is not a first speaking language, then that can be a bit difficult for you to actually communicate with the people over here because the language is so different. The first time that I got to Sydney, Australia, it was really difficult for me to understand what the people are trying to say because they have such a different accent. And so I felt like when I came over here, I have to learn English all over again. But that is also a good part because the more you live over here, the more you get to talk to the Australian people, and the more you get to meet other people from different cultures and backgrounds, the more English you learn. One thing that I noticed about myself while I have been growing up here for the 6 years is that I have become a lot more talkative and a lot more sociable. Unlike Vietnam, where a lot of the people address themselves based on their age difference, in Australia and in any other English-speaking country in particular, they don't use the pronouns that will address in age difference. So they would just use the word you to address everyone. Unlike Vietnam, where let's say you are addressing to your mom, you call her mẹ, or you're trying to address to your dad, which you call him ba. So I guess that just makes you feel a lot easier to speak to people when you not really ignore, but when you do not account the age difference into speaking to them. Not to say that you lose all the self-respect for them, you actually still respect them. Respect has been a big part of me growing up when I was still living in Vietnam. But over here, when the English language doesn't account for age when talking to other people, it just feels a lot more natural when you talk to other genders and other elderly people, and you don't really feel awkward when you're talking to them. I still do have a lot of respect for the elderly people, but it just becomes a lot more natural and a lot less awkward when I'm talking to them. And I felt like because of that, I can approach other people a lot more easily, and I can get a chance to talk to them more often, which has been a big part of who I am today.
Now, the thing about convenience stores over here is that they are not convenient at all. The products at those stores are normally at full price, while if you go to the supermarket, a lot of the times those items will be on sale. Take 7-Eleven and Woolworths for example. At Woolworth, the M&M chocolates are on sale at the moment for about 40% off. You will see these sales very often, and I can assure you whenever you visit Woolworth, it should be on sale most of the times. 7-Eleven on the other hand will sell this item at full price, which is $5. They don't have sales like these because it is a fixed price, so I don't understand the point of a convenience store when it's not even convenient at all. I get that on the highway, the stores are essential, but for stores around the city, there's no point, and people would rather shop at the supermarket instead.
One negative thing about Australia would probably be the weather, is because it seems like the weather can change every 15 minutes. So right now the weather looks like it's really cloudy and it is about to rain, and of course the weatherman said there's about 60% chance of Sydney's having a rain day today, but the majority of the times that doesn't always happen, so you can't really trust the weatherman at all. So it can rain at this moment, but it might not rain during this afternoon, even though the weathermen say that it will rain throughout the entire day. However, if the weathermen do say that the chances of rain will be between 70 to 80% and above, then it will definitely rain that day. But on the day where it's say 40% or 35% for example, then most of the time, from my experience living here in Sydney, Australia for 6 years, it doesn't always rain on that day. Which is the most ridiculous thing, because if today I want to go out with my friends and then the weathermen say that there is a 35% chance of rain today and I thought that it's gonna rain, then I would cancel that plan. But then in the end, it doesn't always rain, and then the day is completely clear with the sun's out. So yeah, missed opportunity to hang out like that. But a lot of the times, if he does say that the chance of rain is above 50%, then definitely on that day it will rain you know, no matter how light or how heavy the rain is. But there will be some form of sprinkling on that day. And today especially, you know, the cloud looks really cloudy, but it's say that's supposed to rain the entire day starting from 1 p.m. and at the moment it is about 2 p.m. and you know, I'm walking around, I have my umbrella with me, but there's still no rain, not a single drop. The downside of living in Sydney, Australia is that everything is so far away that you really do need some form of transportation to get from one place to another. So let's say if I want to go from here all the way to the city, then with public transportation and with car, it would take me probably about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes to get from my place to the city. But in Vietnam, if I want to go from my place to downtown, then I would say it takes between 30 to 35 minutes. So it's not that far. That is a pretty inconvenience aspect about living in Sydney, Australia, is that you do need some form of physical transportation to get you from one place to the next. You cannot just walk from one place to another. A lot of the times you can if you live in popular suburbs, like actually living in the city where the accommodation will be a lot more expensive, or you live in Parramatta where it is known as the second big city in Sydney, Australia. Those areas have a lot of stuff and you can get from one place to the next pretty conveniently. But a lot of the times when you live in further western suburbs or western northern suburbs, then it is a bit difficult to get from one place to the next because everything is so far away. But that's the thing about living in such a big country, is that because everything is a bit bigger and everything is a lot further to travel to, that is something that you have to think about when you study in Sydney, Australia, or anywhere in Australia in particular, is that you have to find some form of transportation near your place, either a bus or a train or a physical vehicle like a car, a bicycle. Yeah, living in Australia, you need one of those to actually get around. So it's really hard to walk from one place to the next.
The thing about accommodation in Sydney is that I have to honestly say, it is fairly a bit more pricey compared to other states in Australia. Currently, I'm living with my relatives, so I don't really have to experience what it's like paying for accommodation. But from what I know, based on some of my friends, they pay between $150 to $300 for accommodation weekly. But let's say if you live in Perth, for example, you'd be expecting to pay between $120 to $250 weekly. Of course, this is all depending on which suburb you live in specifically, but this is a general cost guideline that you can expect when you study in Australia. This is just accommodation itself. You also have to think about groceries, transportation, entertainment, including going out with your friends, and if you do, and mobile data services. For my experience, there was a period where I was living by myself for a month because my relative was traveling overseas. I spent roughly between $70 to $100 per week on groceries, $100 on transportation per week because I was traveling with a full adult price back then and because I was working, around $30 for entertainment from going out with friends, and around $30 for mobile data services. So for that month alone, if you include accommodation, you'll be spending a total of $410. If you live in certain areas in Australia like Perth, the cost can be lowered because accommodation is normally cheaper in regional areas instead of major cities like Sydney, Brisbane or Melbourne. That said, $410 per week is not for everyone. It is just a standard that I set out for myself if I do live with my friends instead of my relative. You might be spending less if you can find a suitable apartment that you can share, and you might be spending less if you buy food in bulk at a sale price. But this is something that can be expected if you do want to come to Sydney to study as an international student. That's it for this video, and I hope to see you guys on the next one.